The People's Assembly continued its first session of the third ordinary round with the presence of members of the cabinet. Parliamentarians discussed the economic situation and the urgent files, demanding a timetable to implement them. Members of Parliament considered that national interest is a collective responsibility, pointing out that it requires cooperation among different parties. They asserted that the ministers should have creative ideas for the future and they should keep away from the routine and the traditional methods in order to resolve the crisis. They also emphasized that serious dialogue should start from the smallest village and shouldn't exclude anyone. Deputy Prime Minister for Services Affairs, Minister of Local Administration, Mr. Omar Ghalawinji, said in the People's Assembly that Syria is facing a real war, which is targeting its infrastructure. He pointed out that the government was studying the establishment of a fund for social security and forming a committee for reconstruction. More than 2 billion Syrian pounds have been spent for such purposes during the past year. Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs, Dr. Qadri Jamil, said that the discussions at the People's Assembly have shown evidence of recovery, progress and openness in the political arena. He called upon everyone to take part in the dialogue and not to resort to criticism only. He asserted that the opposition abroad did not offer any initiative. It only offered a reaction to the government's initiative and call for dialogue. He asserted that the unjust economic siege on Syria led to many casualties and affected citizens and their daily bread. He clarified that the lack of security on the highways delayed the arrival of basic materials to citizens. Minister of Information Omran Al-Zabi asserted that national dialogue would weaken the rate of violence. He pointed out that the government was holding meetings with political forces and parties. He added that the national dialogue needed preliminary steps and comprehensive participation, including even the opposition abroad, in addition to getting rid of weapons. The minister pointed out that the national dialogue would be the basis for the steadfast national convention. He said there were Western and Arab attempts to abort this political program and the national dialogue. Minister of National Reconciliation, Mr. Ali Haider, asserted that the Syrian people were suffering from various difficulties. He called for a clear mechanism of work and coordination among all ministries and departments in order to overcome the suffering. He also stressed the importance of integration between the legislative and executive institutions in order to have a clear and united vision. Minister of Justice Dr. Najm Al-Ahmad asserted that the ministry was planning to set up a just and independent judiciary system. He said it was dealing with any case in the current conditions in an exceptional way, different from the past. He asserted that the doors of the ministry were open for everyone and that criticism was accepted. Minister of Higher Education Dr. Muhammad Ma'alla asserted that terrorism in Syria caused the death of 30 employees in the ministry. It also caused damages in the universities and the abduction of members of the teaching staff.
In field developments and in Homs countryside, units of the Syrian Arab Army carried out a series of successful operations against terrorist gatherings, killing many of them, injuring several others and destroying their vehicles in Abil, Taldaw and Kifr Laha. Among the terrorists killed, there was Hussam Abu al-Azm, leader of a terrorist group linked to Al-Nusra Front. Syrian Arab Army also destroyed many terrorist hideouts, including rocket launchers and automatic snipers in these hideouts that the terrorists had used to attack residents in several areas of Homs countryside. The Russian Foreign Ministry announced that the questions concerning the solution of the crisis in Syria were foremost among the subjects of the telephone conversation between the Russian and American foreign ministers. The ministry said in a statement that Sergei Lavrov discussed with his American counterpart, John Kerry, the necessity of ending violence by all parties and starting dialogue between the government and the opposition. Russian Ministry of Emergencies announced its intention to send 2 planes carrying humanitarian assistance to Syria weighing 44 tons. The spokeswoman of the ministry pointed out that the 2 planes may carry Russian citizens from Syria if they wished to go home. The terrorist organization that belongs to Al-Qaeda in Iraq admitted responsibility for the series of terrorist attacks in Baghdad that led to the death of 37 victims and the wounding of more than 100 others. The Iraqi head of government, Nour al-Maliki, described the explosions as calls to increase instigation and hatred, thus inviting similar violent reactions. He pointed out that these acts exposed the evil plot against the Iraqis, their security, and their stability. He called for standing together to confront these dangers. In Egypt, dozens of demonstrators suffered cases of suffocation, and many of them, including one child, fell on the ground during clashes with the security forces in Al-Gharbiya province. There was information about differences inside the Salafi Noor party, one of whose leaders announced his resignation today from the consultative body of President Morsi. Dr. Bassam al-Zarqa and his resignation that his resignation was a reaction to the dismissal of Khalid Alamuddin, the president's advisor on environmental affairs. On the other hand, the Committee of Freedom in the Egyptian Bar Association rejected the plan of the Muslim Brotherhood to control the basic positions in the state, particularly in the fields of judiciary and internal affairs. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad described the relations between his country and Kuwait as brotherly and deep. Nejad's statement came following his meeting with the Deputy Minister of the Kuwaiti Emir's Affairs, Sheikh Ali Al-Jarrah Al-Subah in Tehran. The Iranian President expressed hope that Asian meetings would contribute in boosting solidarity and in strengthening relations between countries of the region. Also in Tehran, head of the Iranian Shura Council, Ali Larijani, said that the Americans are making a new trick by proposing dialogue with Iran. Larijani pointed out that Iran succeeded in developing peaceful nuclear technology. He added that the Americans wanted to end the Palestinian issue and to go out of Afghanistan in order to target Iran. Going to Venezuela, where Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez came back to Caracas after cancer treatment and after more than 2 months of the surgical operation he had in Cuba. Chavez thanked the Venezuelan citizens who expressed concern over his health condition. Tens of thousands of protesters gathered in Washington, calling on the U.S. President Barack Obama to reject the controversial Keystone XL oil pipeline proposal and to honor his inauguration pledge to act on climate change. Protesters from 30 states marched around the nearby White House area, calling to shut down the Keystone pipeline. Protesters said that approving the pipeline, which would transport crude oil from oil sands of northern Alberta to refineries and ports in Texas, would be akin to lighting a carbon bomb that could cause irreplaceable harm to climate. More details on our website, www.syriaonline.sy. After the break, a tour to inspect services in Damascus countryside and the citrus production in Syria. All that and more in our economic news.